The Beat with our good friend Jason Johnson, and for Ari Melber starts right now. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you so much. Welcome to The Beat. I'm Jason Johnson, in for Ari Melber. We start with the ferocious clash over voting rights as Texas Democrats mount a dramatic stand, and President Biden tears into Republican efforts as un-American and unpatriotic. Tonight, over 50 Texas Democrats are in Washington, D.C., and facing the threat of arrest after leaving their home state. They left to deprive Republicans of a quorum and block a voter suppression bill. Back in Austin, Texas Republicans today voting to deputize a sergeant-at-arms to arrest the Democrats. This is some Les Miserables stuff. They're just going to chase them around the country. But the sergeant-at-arms has no jurisdiction in Washington, D.C. Today, Democrats speaking in front of the Capitol, imploring Congress to pass federal voting laws.
We need Congress to act now and pass the For the People Act. Texas Democrats will use everything in our power to fight back, but we need Congress to act now.
Coming up, I'll talk to one of those Texas Democrats, excuse me, who is defying the Republicans and the threat of arrest. Today in Philadelphia, and what the White House billed as a major speech, Biden ripping into Republicans' voter suppression efforts in Texas and beyond.
We're facing the most significant test of our democracy since the Civil War. That's not hyperbole. The 21st century Jim Crow assault is real. It's unrelenting. And we're going to challenge it vigorously. The big lie is just that, a big lie. Have you no shame?
No, they have no shame. We knew that 10 years ago. Late today, Vice President Harris is meeting with the Texas Democrats to talk voting rights. And in a new interview with NPR, Harris says she has been talking to Senate Democrats about how to break through McConnell's obstruction on the issue. The Texas Democrats are showing they will do anything to preserve the right to vote for their citizens. Biden's speech today, not so much. Yes, anybody who cares to know understands these voter suppression bills across the country are bad. But President Biden offered no new plans or strategies. He made no mention of the filibuster, expanding the courts, or how far he's willing to go to save this country. It was essentially 20 minutes of, come on, guys. President Biden owes everyone who voted for him. He owes this country. He owes especially the black voters who got him into office, who are the targets of the GOP voter suppression, better than what he delivered today. Joining me now is Reverend Al Sharpton, founder and president of the National Action Network and host of Politics Nation here on MSNBC. He is in a car right now traveling back from Philly, having just spoken to the president. Sharpton met with Biden last week at the White House at a meeting with civil rights leaders and got a shout out from Biden today.
So many friends out. Al Sharpton. Al, how are you, pal? It's great to see you.
And Joan Walsh, national affairs correspondent for The Nation. Rev, I'm going to start with you. You had conversations with the president. I can tell you, I was not particularly overwhelmed. If this was supposed to be the gladiator rallying cry, I don't feel like marching up and fighting the barbarians right now. It sounded like more of the same. I heard a budget, not a plan. What did the president say to you and other civil rights leaders that should make us feel optimistic about what they're going to do about these voter suppression plans across the country?
Well, first of all, I think that in our meeting last week, I said coming out of the meeting that it was more of us saying to the president what we wanted to see done, and including the filibuster, and at the very least the carve out around the filibuster, and that we wanted him to use his bully pulpit to talk about what was going on with this voter suppression. This is a racist ploy. He needs to use his bully pulpit as Lyndon Johnson did when he got up before the joint sessions of Congress and said, "We shall overcome." And I think today he did use his bully pulpit. He was very passionate. I was very happy he talked about 20th century Jim Crow, but he did not address the filibuster at all. And they did not talk about, therefore, what the plan is going to be. In my conversation with him after, he says, we are working through our strategy on that. The vice president is meeting as we speak. So I would only hope that from that, they are working on how they're going to deal with a carve-out, but he did not commit that. But I think today was important for him to use his bully pulpit, but I think that that is not going to be enough. There has to be two things. There has to be either a carve-out around the filibuster or they outright move to try and get rid of the filibuster, which, according to them, they're going to need 60 votes, so they don't know how they're going to get there. And the other part of this is the finishing of H.R. 4, because we must remember the John Lewis bill has not been finished, and can it be completed in a way that they can get that around where Senate Bill 1 is? So there are two options, and he and I talked about today, and the completing of H.R. 4, can Manchin and Sinema and others go with that completion, and does it answer all the needs that we need so that it's not weakened so till we end up with something that ends up really being nothing with substance? That's what I come back home with.
Joan, I want to play you some audio from Nsé Ufot, who runs the New Georgia Project. And I want to know, after hearing what she has to say, and combined with Biden's speech, I want to hear your perspective on, how enthusiastic or how galvanized should activists on the ground be after this speech? I want to hear your thoughts after this audio.
I did not hear is what the President of the United States in this moment is willing to do in order to make sure that we pass the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. If we just rely on the Department of Justice, or if we just rely on activists to wage the fight for democracy in state houses across the country, that essentially we're going to be playing whack-a-mole.
Exactly. As I said at the beginning, Joan, what I heard from Joe Biden today was a budget, not a plan. Okay, activists are going to be working. They were already working. Department of Justice is going to work. They were already working. This is an activist on the ground who flipped Georgia blue. And even she was disappointed in the speech. Joan, is there anything that the people who are giving their blood, sweat, and tears right now, from Texas to Georgia to Florida, is there anything that got out of the speech tonight that they should be happy about?
I suppose that doubling this voting rights division of the Justice Department is something, Jason, but it's not enough. And I think what I saw today, and I saw Nsé's passionate comments, and I co-sign all of them, even the ones you didn't play. And I think that your point is a good one. Activists have been sweating, blood, sweat, and tears to get people to the polls. And so there was kind of a sad metaphor today in the urgency of those Texas Democrats fleeing Austin, flying into Washington, D.C., but the president is leaving Washington, D.C. to go to Philly and give a speech. And if Reverend Al is happy that he used the bully pulpit, I'm happy, but I'm not sure it was a bully pulpit. I don't know what it was, but he's starting small at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think we need prime time. I think we need We Shall Overcome. I think we need the joint session. I think we might have needed it 2 months ago. And finally, I thought, Nsé didn't quite say this, but this is what I thought. One thing that kind of hit me wrong was when he said we need a new coalition against voter suppression and for voting rights, because I think I understand what he meant. That his folks, the business community, moderates need to get involved. Okay, but it hit me the wrong way, because we have a growing and vital and definitely underfunded, but amazing coalition that has really sprung up in the last 5 years, or certainly since Shelby, to join Reverend Al and the National Action Network and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and bring along a new generation of grassroots activists, both to change the laws, but even more, not more importantly, but incredibly on the ground to flip Georgia, for example. So I felt like that was a little bit tone deaf, because there is a coalition and they really need you to do more, Mr. President.
Yeah, you make a good point, Joan. I mean, look, the president, I guess he was from the bully. It wasn't a bully from the pulpit. It was maybe pestering from the pulpit, maybe complaining from the pulpit. I didn't hear much bullying. Rev, this is another key thing about today's speech. So as Joan was saying, the president talked about we need a new coalition to bring people together. Let's go to the core of this on a racial issue, as you mentioned when we first started. White people in America already understand what's going on. Let's be clear about what this coalition thing is that he's talking about. Black people know that this is voter suppression. Poor people know that this is voter suppression. Poor white people know that this is voter suppression. there's nobody in America who is black or white or Asian or Hispanic or Latinx or whatever terms that you want to use, however you identify yourself. There's nobody in this country that does not understand what's going on anymore. And so the concern that I have with the president making something like we need to put together a coalition, you got to go to war with the army you have, not the army you want. Is that something you think Joe Biden is missing, or maybe we just misinterpret it?
I think the fact of the matter is that it was a coalition that came together, which is the reason he's president. And all of us have been involved in that coalition and are going to continue. The coalition, we're doing marches and rallies now. We have the big national march August 28th. We don't need a new coalition. We need to get rid of the filibuster. We need to finish the H.R. 4. And we needed the president to be vocal. And one of the reasons I'm saying that I'm glad he did what he did today is because we have not heard him make a major speech on this at all. We heard major speeches on infrastructure. We heard major speeches on other matters. I wanted what we got today for him to address this. Now, I think that I agree with Joan. The metaphor of the Texas Democrats coming to Washington and him going to Philly, and nobody knew they were coming to Washington until last night, so they already had decided his dramatic show at the Independence Hall. I think he was at the right location. I think that calling it Jim Crow was good. But now what are we going to do about Jim Crow? Because the filibuster helped Jim Crow last time. We have to get rid of the filibuster, and we have to come with a bill that has teeth on it. I think we have that opportunity with H.R. 4, but can we make sure that Manchin and Sinema goes with the outcome of that writing? Because we keep talking about the John Lewis bill like it has been written. It has not been completed. It has not been written. And that could be very key to where we go forward here.
Rev Sharpton, Joan Walsh, thank you so much for starting off our show. This is a very important topic, and we're definitely coming back to it.